Scott, I guess it's been a while. How do you feel you guys are doing, and how prepared do you think you're gonna be to go into this?
So to answer your question, James, we've really we stayed about as prepared as we could be. We've had some really high spirited energy practices. We've tried to simulate with matches. We've done our peaks and valleys of the 2 weeks leading up, like we've done ever since I've been here. So practices have been great. Our guys' spirits are good. Sure, we would, from a coaching staff standpoint, you'd like to wrestle more. So that's always a concern. We just haven't wrestled. It's like opening day, really. It's the way I kind of look at it. We're just starting out. It's been 5-6 weeks since we've competed. So you just gotta, again, like I said last press conference, remain professional and be ready to go when you put your foot on the line. Nobody cares about the excuses that you haven't been wrestling. Be ready as you can and get after it, score some points, and get your hand raised. And we're in a situation now, not being duels, being tournament. It's survive and advance. Let's move on. Next round, get ready to go.
We'll go Steve Falk next.
Scott, in general terms, what do you think Kennard's chances are of getting in that large?
He's a nationally ranked kid. You gotta, based on who he's wrestled, and that's was always dating back to the summer with the Big Ten only allowing us to wrestle the Big Ten. I knew this was probably going to happen, right? But his resume isn't great from a wins and loss standpoint, but his resume is pretty good from who he's wrestled, right? He's wrestled 5, 6, 8 in the country. He's wrestled them all very competitively, and he has a win over somebody nationally ranked. So for us, we're Cleary fans now, right? We want him to make the tournament, be on the board, and that gives him a better chance. But I think he'll be on the board anyway based on a national ranking, which I think he should still get. The negative is what it looks like at 1 and 3, and anybody who follows the sport, which is coaches voting on this, I would think would have him ranked based on his resume and who he's wrestled and where he's at. So being in a coaching poll is big if that happens. Now, looking back to last week, there's some guys that also need a wild card berth or whatever you call it, or the AQ. So that's you look at that a little bit and just hope he has a nice national ranking after this.
Next question is Lex Knapp. Go ahead, Lex.
Coach, with this season being the way it was, is gearing up for the postseason the closest thing to normalcy you guys have felt? As far as with the dual meets starting later in the year, quads and tries getting canceled, the postseason, the anxiety, that all it's kind of a normal feeling again, is it not?
I think the last 2 weeks have been like that. But then you look at the way we orchestrated our practices, they've all been different. We cut the roster to really there's 12 guys in the room, which is something we've never done before, right? We did it to protect our guys. Everybody who was in the protocol at some point is a workout partner for somebody who's not in the protocol. So that gives them a real slim chance of contact. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is just things that I've read up on and asked around and tried to figure out the best protocol for our guys and trying to keep them safe. So from a wrestling standpoint, I think our training cycle is about as normal as it's been. From a coaching staff, or maybe it's just me, there's nothing normal to it. Every day is a wake up and 9 o'clock's coming. All right, we're testing and fingers crossed and okay, we're good. Let's go to work. So I think from an athlete standpoint, they've done an incredible job of maintaining focus, putting in some really good workouts. And again, it's just me really with the coaching staff, going over just on, before I came here, our bus ride out tonight, where I'm going to sit these guys on the bus and every 4 seats and bringing 2 extra vans and putting the guys it's crazy. No need to go into it, but you get what I'm talking about.
Next question's for Nick Costco. Go ahead, Nick.
Coach, speaking of normal, at least trying to get to some sort of normalcy, you mentioned over the weekend you were going to do basically a tournament simulation. How did that work out for you guys in the wrestling room? You said split up into sessions, referees, national anthem, the whole shebang. So how'd that go out for you guys, considering you haven't competed in almost a month and a half?
Yeah, we brought a referee in one day. We had a couple wrestle-off bouts. We had about 4 bouts, so that's how that worked out. But as far as the tournament, we kind of scratched the mini tournament because really we decided to cut our whole roster just to the guys wrestling at the Big Tens. So we haven't seen the other guys. for safety reasons, of course. But we did get a match in. We prepared. We got a great warm-up, prepared match, tried to simulate as best we could. We're gonna go with what we got right now, and hopefully we're prepared enough to get our hand raised and advance to the next tournament.
Next question is from Mike Abramitis. Go ahead, Mike.
Coach, can you hear me?
Yes.
What will be the protocols for both weigh-in and the COVID testing for the tournament? Will it be every day or just the morning of the first day?
Friday night for Saturday's competition, Saturday night for Sunday's competition. On the bus back home, first thing Monday morning.
Thank you. And when the coaches do their at the nationals for the at-larges, are they only looking at the coaches poll, or are they allowed to consider the other polls as well?
I think I'm pretty sure there's a lot of different factors of win percentage, coaches poll. Like for example, at 125, they're bringing 8 guys from the Big Ten. So if you're in ninth, let's say you place ninth, 1 out of the spot, you'll go up on a board. So it's all those guys that are their coaches poll, they'll go on a board. 1 out of a placing spot, they'll go on a board. Things like that. And then once you're on the board, they'll get it down to 7 guys, wild card wise, what 7 guys have the best resumes.
Great. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We'll go with James Cratch. Go ahead, James.
Scott, obviously Sebastian, is a national title contender, and I know it was his injury, but he had that layoff last year where he didn't wrestle for. Do you think that's going to help him going into this tournament?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, he didn't wrestle at all last year until the very end. I think he got a duel in against Maryland last year, and then had his great Big Ten tournament. So I don't think he's worried about it. He's a veteran. He's been in so many big matches. So maybe it's not a huge deal for him based on where he's at in the bracket. He'll get, you don't look ahead in this tournament especially. You don't look ahead. But he has the opportunity to get 2 matches before his semi Saturday night. So that's good for him to get on a roll a little bit, to get going. So, maybe it is good for him. He seems healthy, man. He trains super, super hard, and he's continued that. He's continued that all the way through, and his work ethic's been great for the 6 weeks we've been off. So he seems like he's in a great spot. He doesn't talk about not having matches. It doesn't really matter to him. So I think he'll have there'll be no excuses from anyone in this program about it, but I think Sebastian Rivera is totally prepared to wrestle this tournament.
Next question, we'll go to Steve Falk. Go ahead, Steve.
On the Sebastian mode, do you think the seed kind of motivates him a little bit, or he doesn't care?
No, I think it motivates him. I think he feels like, he won 2 big championships. He knew where he was going to be placed. It wasn't maybe me probably. I probably argued it the most that, he's a 2-time champ. Nobody else in the field has won the tournament. So I just felt this whole season's about historical data. That's historical data. He's won 2 Big Ten. You know how hard it is to win this tournament? He's done it twice. So the 1 seed hasn't wrestled in it. And that doesn't mean that the 1 seed isn't, deserves that spot or isn't capable. He's really, really good. And so is the Penn State kid. So you got to wrestle every match. I don't think Sebastian cares. I think he knew where he was going to be. So just last year I think he was the 4 or 5, another incredible opportunity for him. And I know he lives for this tournament, so this is important for him.
Sorry, next question, we'll go with Lex Knapp. Go ahead, Lex.
Coach, Sebastian might fall into this category, but is there anyone that you felt was negatively impacted seeding-wise because you guys didn't get to wrestle your full schedule this year?
You know what? I don't. I really – I mean, who knows, right? Because you wrestle these matches, you get – Paz gets the Michigan State kid. That would have been a big matchup. Janzer could have wrestled. Man, he would have had 3 really good opportunities. So based on looking at it, because we didn't wrestle those matches, I don't think anybody but Seb really should be anywhere differently. But what could have been if we wrestled some of those matches, and that could be good or bad. So no complaints. It's the tournament. There's going to be some crazy thing. I mean, heck, who knows who even steps on the scale, right? Saturday morning. There's a lot that's going to happen from now until then. So you're placed where you're placed. But I wasn't shocked. If that answers your question. I wasn't shocked by anybody where they were placed, to be honest with you.
We'll close out with James. Go ahead, James.
Scott, I guess where do you think Paz stands? What are you kind of looking for him this weekend? And we haven't asked you yet. Dylan Shawver wrestled 2 bouts, both extra bouts. What's kind of the expectation? What do you kind of look for from him? He's kind of jumping into the deep end here.
Yeah, he's jumping in, but this kid's super, super talented. And listen, it's high school, right? So, high school's high school, and that's a year ago. These guys are a lot better, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. But he does have wins mentally for him over guys in the field. Ragusin, he's beaten at the high school level last year. Same with Robert Howard. So there's some confidence there where he thinks he can compete with these guys. And, he won his wrestle off. Him and Turley Colucci have wrestled matches. They've had to compete. So that's been good. They've had to get down the weight and compete. So there's a little advantage for those guys with a ref, out in the rack. So that was good for them. So, yeah, he's getting thrown in there, but he's been waiting for this. He's felt he can compete with all these guys in the bracket. He's got obviously it's a really good draw, tough draw for him. So, but I'm anxious to see what Dylan does. This kid wrestled really good in his wrestle off. He's tough. He's really good, and he's good in all 3 areas, which makes it. Again, I don't know. I'm very curious how this shakes out for him. A great 2 weeks of preparation for him. He was prepared to go against Maryland. He would have wrestled against Maryland. So he's been preparing like he's the guy. So it'll be interesting. As far as Paz, very excited for him. Very excited. I think, Steve, you and I were talking a little bit offline a couple days ago, but you throw a blanket over that, right? From 2 to 10, yeah. There's one guy that maybe stands out. And then from 2 to 10, they could all beat each other. And Paz he's an exciting kid who wrestles really, really hard. Really, he's got a kid first round. We recruited pretty good, so that'll be interesting. But I know this sounds boring and old, and it's got to be one match, one period at a time, one match at a time. But I'm anxious to see what Paz does in this tournament. He could do some really good things, hopefully.
Steve, do you have a final question before we?
I was going to ask about Paz, but let's quickly about Sammy and that bracket. How do you think he is going into this tournament?
I think all those guys, man. I think all those guys. You can't. That's the crazy thing about this tournament and this weight. You can't. I've seen it so many times, and I tell everybody, tune in at 10 o'clock quarterfinal round it's one of the best rounds in wrestling. Or pre-quarter round. It's some of the best wrestling in the country. It's somewhat better than the national tournament. I truly believe that. So there'll be a ton of upsets, and we just got to be prepared to go. Whether you're a 10 wrestling a 7, 11 wrestling a 6, whether you're a 3 wrestling a 14, you have to be ready because everybody in this field's capable in every weight.
Alrighty, thanks, Goody.
All
Thanks,
good?
Goody.
All right, guys.